Hey everyone, I thought since sitting here in my car, always in my car, everyone that knows me, that I would just start a YouTube channel and start documenting my cancer journey. I know I don't talk a whole lot about everything that has happened, and I thought to bring awareness and just for my own personal growth and just kind of see where my story started and where it continues to go. So I am very fortunate that I had the doctors that I had 2 years ago, and it all started very much like a whirlwind. I was in a lot of pain, and of course my other half was begging me to go to the hospital, and as the stubborn knucklehead that I am, I said, I'm fine, everything's good, I can make it, and I proceeded to keep pushing. Lo and behold, a few days later, I finally broke down and just decided I'll stop after work. So went to work, made it through the day, and went to the hospital, and they did a bunch of MRIs, and they come back in and they're just trying to figure out how I'm not on the floor just rolling around in pain. My appendix had seemed to have bursted, and I was put in the hospital to have surgery. Unfortunately, I had went to a hospital where they didn't have a surgeon on hand until 6:30 the next morning. So I had to stay overnight. I went through the surgery, great, and I woke up and I was trying to figure out all the things that were going on because there was a lot of conversations that I just wasn't really understanding. And whenever it finally came to the next day, I realized that not only did my appendix burst, but while they were doing the surgery, they had found a tumor on my right part of my colon, and they decided at that time that they were going to go ahead and do a resection. It was kind of right at the cecum, duodenum area. So I had told that my appendix bursted, they took that out, and they also took out a foot of my colon. And the joke was, at least you still have 4 foot to go. So that was always reassuring. A few weeks later, I got the call that I had stage 3 colon cancer. They had found also 7 lymph nodes that were involved around the area that they had done the colon resection. So I was referred just to my closest cancer clinic, and I had reached out to my OBGYN. She was fantastic. I had a high-risk pregnancy 5 months prior, and I went into my water had broke at 26 weeks. I was so very fortunate that I was on a high-risk team at the very beginning, and at 23 weeks we had done a cerclage surgery, so I had made it 3 weeks to the next point. So I was very, very fortunate that I was able to have that surgery and able to keep going. I spent 21 days in the high-risk pregnancy hospital room, and my little one, she was not going to wait anymore, and she came at 29 weeks, and she was in the NICU for 13 weeks. It was quite the experience. it was quite a year for 2021 to not only go through all of that, but also then go into now I have to battle through cancer. Luckily my kids, they are fantastic. They're doing so great, and that it makes my life so much easier, while I'm going through all of this. But, she put me in contact with my current doctor, and I am beyond blessed to have that doctor and the team. They're absolutely incredible. And I could not ask for better doctors, especially going through this situation that I had just gone through. So I feel like everybody was put in my, I don't know if it's destiny or whatever you would like to call, but it just lined out so perfectly. And I was very fortunate that my team of doctors were so hands-on, and as soon as I went in, I was getting all the new tests and panels and MRIs and screenings and everything possible right at the beginning of my whole entire cancer journey. So it was kind of a rude awakening to not only not have any symptoms and all of a sudden be thrown into this, but also doing that with a 5-month-old and a 4-year-old at the time. Thankfully, I have an amazing support system, friends, and my other half, my rock. I don't know where I would be without him. I'd probably be lost, out of my mind. But, my family means the world to me. And during this journey, they were with me 110%. I have so many people in my corner. And I went through chemo, my first line. I did 12 rounds. Well, technically 11 rounds of one drug and 12 rounds of the other drug. It's capecitabine pills, Exolda, and oxaliplatin was my infusions. I did that every 2 weeks for 6 months. I did more scans and the Signatera blood test, which is an incredible test that it reads if you have any lingering cancer cells that the scans can't see in your body. And it had came negative. I was beyond ecstatic. I was so excited to ring the bell and just celebrate that huge step, not knowing that after the celebration ended 3 months later, I had another MRI and 2 spots in my lungs appeared. And my doctor sat down with me and said, I'm very, very sorry to tell you this. We found 2 spots in your lungs, and this is now what we call metastatic. So the cancer has spread from the original tumor area. The terminology, the groups that I've joined pushed me to see so many different stories and just get a good understanding of, how this all works. And it was an eye-opener, to say the least, that I would now have to be going through more treatment. So I was fortunate enough to be able to start a trial. This trial included immunotherapy. It was Ipi-Nivo and trametinib pill. Ipi and Nivo are immunotherapy drugs that are given through intravenously. I was very fortunate at the very beginning of my chemo plan. I was able to get a port. Most people usually get some kind of sedative or something to relax. Unfortunately, my blood pressure had dropped too low and I was wide awake with no drugs, hanging out underneath a tent, doing karaoke with the team that was putting in my port. It was quite the experience, I'm sure, not only for them, but for me. And it definitely made the experience a lot less scary. I can't tell you what we sang. It was just seemed like a 90s punk rock mix of sorts. But it definitely was an experience. I then went and started this trial. During the trial, I, of course, got a grade 3 rash. So that meant that I had acne from the top of my forehead on my skull, or my scalp, I should say, all the way down to my stomach. I was just covered in pimples and a rash. It was the craziest thing ever. And I have plenty of pictures, just to document, to show that grade 3 rash. And I was prescribed prednisone and then a specific form of an antibiotic and a couple different other pills. And, unfortunately, that didn't really take care of the situation. It didn't actually go away until I officially stopped those drugs. I was on those drugs for on and off 3 months. I would keep getting taken off and then put back on and taken off and put back on. And my doctor was going back and forth with the board constantly stating, I had a grade 3 rash, but everything else was fine. I was tolerating the drugs fantastic. I felt like Superman. But unfortunately, with my situation, my cancer decided to kind of go crazy. It went a little haywire, and it spread even further and more than what they had even anticipated. So the best decision at that time was to definitely remove me from those drugs and go back to a different line of chemo. Through the MRIs, everything had progressed, and I was now seeing that, a couple of lesions, couple nodules, turned into multiple lymph nodes throughout my whole entire body that were infected. And I had done a Tempus test. It's a genetics test that was sent off to see what kind of mutation they were dealing with, see what my tumor markers were, to understand what kind of drugs would be best to try to battle this type of cancer. So my genetics came back. It was a high for KRAS mutation. KRAS is one of the most 50% of people that have cancer, any kind of cancer, can have a KRAS mutation. This mutation has been undruggable for the last 50 years. It's a very sneaky mutation. The cancer cell hides within the cell, so it's kind of hard to locate those cells and differentiate between healthy and bad cells. My body can't tell. So the type that I have is kind of in the 10% range. I have KRAS G12A. That's my main mutation. I do have another mutation. It's TP53. It's a lot less known in targeted drugs for that particular mutation. It's a lot lower, but it is still something that is a secondary. And learning all this information, I joined an amazing group called the KRAS Kickers, and they have been so knowledgeable and helpful in their conferences, their group testimonials, I guess I should say, and sharing just general information is outstanding. I mean, they are first on the line. They're trying to provide everything possible under the sun about all the new trials coming out, new drugs, anything that's worked, that hasn't worked, how people can connect that have similar mutations, and just kind of share stories and go back and forth. And it's an amazing just wealth of knowledge and information and people, and just so very fortunate that I came across it. And it's really helped me with my cancer journey and having conversations with my doctor and having just a general understanding of, yes, I have cancer, but really digging deep and seeing, well, what can I do? What can I push to the next level? And it's been a whirlwind of learning and growing and just trying to figure out what approach, what's the next step, what can we do to get to the next level. And that is the first part of my journey, and I will get back on and share the seconds. So I will see you guys soon.